In this video, we will deep dive into strings in Python. A string is a sequence of characters. In Python, the type str is used to represent a string object. You can specify a string literal by enclosing a sequence of characters in either single quotes, double quotes, or triple quotes. A string literal can contain 0 or more characters, including letters, digits, special characters, and space. The enclosing quotation marks are not stored as part of the string. They are used to delimit the string. So in Python, there are several ways you can create a string by one, enclosing a string in a single quote or double quote or even what, a triple quote. So let's look at some example. So I can create a variable called word and assign it to a string literal, let's say photosynthesis. So by so doing, I have created a string, and we can verify that this is a string by just getting the type of this string variable. So I'll just say print type, and then I'll pass in the word variable here. And when I go to my terminal and run my file using the command python and then the name of my file, which is main.py, we get class str. So this shows that this is what, a string object. Moreover, we can create a string using what, single quotes. So when I go ahead and then I just put single quote here to delimit this word here. So by putting single quotes here, this word is no longer referring to this variable here, but it's just a string on its own. Or I'll just change this and put python here, and when I run my code, you see that we get what, the str object. And then I can wrap this in triple quotes as well. So when I put triple quotes here and then print the type, we get string. And then when I wrap it with single triple quotes, so I'll just put single triple quotes here and then go to my terminal and run it, we get what, str. Now I have configured my VS Code extension to change my single quotes to what, double quotes. That's why you see that whenever I save it, it changed to what, double quotes. So that's my preference, that's what I prefer. So you can use double quotes or single quotes to what, delimit a string in Python. So that's how we can create a string in Python. Another way we can create a string is wrapping a string with the str function, which is given to us from what, Python. So I can just say Python here, and then when I go ahead and then comment this out and then change this to print word, the type of word, and I run my code, let me run my Python file, we get class str object. So this is another way we can create a string. I just notified I didn't write the Python one, but it doesn't matter. So this is another way that we can create a string using the str function. But in most cases, you use these to do what we call typecasting in Python, which we'll look at in a later video. So these are the various ways we can create string in Python. One, by using a single quote. Two, by using double quotes. And then three, by using what, triple quotes. The next thing I want us to look at is looking at how we can index a string, or indexing. In order to access a single character inside a string, we must specify a numeric index inside square bracket. Indexing is 0 base, so the first index is 0. So whenever we create a string, so I'll just comment this one out and we declare a string, let's say hello from Python here, and save. So this string, we can access individual portion of this string, which is known as what, indexing. So when I comment this out, let's say I want to access what, the H character or letter over here, I can write word, and then with this square bracket, I can specify what, the index of what, the word or of the character I want to access. So since strings are sequence of characters, I can access the first element using what, the first element of this string using what, 0, because strings are 0 base. So when I go ahead and then print this to the terminal, I can save this to what, a variable, or just say first underscore letter, and then save it to this variable and go ahead and print first letter. And when I clear my terminal and run my Python file, you see that we are getting H. So strings uh, are zero index, are zero base index. So whenever I want to access the first character, you use what? Zero. So the second character is what? One. When I go ahead and run it, you see that we are getting E outputted in the terminal. So this is how we can access what? A letter or an individual element from what? A string using what? Indexing. So when I put 10 here, let's go ahead. When I go to my terminal and run my file, we don't get anything because there is no character at the character at the 10th index is what? This space. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you see that the reason why I didn't get anything in my terminal is that this is what? A space. So when I change this to 11, I should be getting what? Capital P. When I go to my terminal and run, you see that capital P is printed in the terminal. So this is how we can get an individual element of a sequence of strings or from a string. The next thing we'll look at is getting the length of a string. So the built-in length len function gives the length of a string, which is equal to the total number of characters in the string. So I'll just comment these two things out. So in case I want to get the length of this string, what I have to do is we use what? The length function, which is this function. It is a built-in function in Python. So I'll just write length and then pass the string variable to it. So I'll just save this to a variable called string length like this. And then now when I go ahead and print this to my terminal, string length variable, and run my Python file, you see that we are getting 17. So this is giving us what? The total number of characters in this string. So note that it is different from what? The index. In indexing a string is starting from what? 0. But getting the length of a string, it starts from what? 1. So this is how we can get the total number of characters in a string. So in case I want to get since this length function returns what? A number, I can use that to what? Get a particular element or individual element or letter from what? Or character from a string. So I can say something like this, maybe first character or something like this variable, and I'll set it to what? The word, and then I'll just pass in square bracket, I'll pass in my string letter here. So since this will give us 17, so I'll just go ahead, and then when I run this file, I get length string not found. So I get this error which is in an index or string index out of range, because now this string variable, this string length variable is giving us 17, but remember that strings are 0 index base, but the length of a string starts from 1. So the length, which is 17, is what? More than the number of what? Strings over here. So in order to get that we have to what? Change this. So make sure that whenever you want to index a string, make sure that you don't provide an index which is what? More than the length of a string, because indexing is what? Always -1. So I'll just go ahead and then comment this out, and you should keep that in mind. So when I go ahead and run my code again, you see that we are getting 17, which is what? The length of this string. So that is it about what? String. Now, in order to get the last character from this string, what we can do is I can just go ahead, comment these ones out like this. So I'll just go ahead and say last character. So in square bracket, I can use the length function, and then I'll pass the word over here, and I'll say minus what? 1, in order to get what? The last character from this string. When I go ahead and then print last character like this and run my code, you see that we are getting what? 16. So the reason why we are getting this is I have to put we are just getting the value because I forgot to put the word variable here. Now when I go ahead and run it, we are getting what? N, which is this last character in the string. In order to get the second last character, when I change this to -2, you see that we are getting what? O, which is this O in this Python a string over here or this Python word over here. So this is how we can access a string. And then mind you that whenever you provide an index which is what more than the length of this string or more than a string, you get that index what error. So like what we had initially when I come down here and I try to, let's say, maybe print into bracket word, and then I want to access, let's say, an index maybe 20 like this. When I go and run my code, you see that we get what string index out of range. So make sure that you keep in mind that you don't get out of range. One thing you have to keep in mind is that indexing is what zero base. So that's from 0 to the end of the string. Okay, and then getting the length of the string is what not zero base. So it starts from 1 to the end of the string. So you should keep that in mind. Now, one thing you have to note is that what strings are immutable. What this means is that strings, whenever you declare a string, you cannot what change it. So for instance, when I try accessing the word, so if I say word and then try accessing, let's say h, okay, so the h is what 0, index of 0, and then I'll try changing to maybe something like p like this. When I do this, you can even see that what I'm getting, my terminal is giving me, sorry, my text editor is giving me what this error. So it means what strings are what immutable. You cannot what access an individual element of a string and then try to assign it to something else. But I can go ahead and then use the word variable and then assign it to what a different string, and I won't get an error, because as we learned earlier that what everything in Python is an object, and whenever we declare a variable, we are just declaring a reference to that object in the computer's memory. So the value is stored in the object. So since this is a string, the value, which is what hello from Python, is stored in the string object. It's not stored in this word object, this word variable, because this word variable is just what a reference or a pointer to this value in the computer's memory. So we know that whenever we declare variables, a variable has the type, ID, and what the value. So that's one thing you should keep in mind. So you can redeclare a variable, but you cannot what mutate or change a string whenever a string whenever you have already what declared it. So whenever I try accessing, let's say, the second character like this, and then trying to assign it to maybe an empty string or maybe put some string here, you can see that when I go to my terminal and then run my Python file, you see that what string object does not support item assignment. So that will result in an error. So you should keep in mind that you cannot what change a string letter or character from a string. You cannot what change it, because strings are what immutable. So the next thing I want us to look at is what slicing. With square bracket, we can also access a portion or a slice of a string, which is called what slicing. To extract a part of the string, we must specify two integers inside square brackets. So whenever we want to access a portion of a string, we can what slice that string. So for this string over here, I can access a portion of it. So I'll just write the name of the variable, and then in square bracket I specify the start and then the end. So I can say I want to slice from, let's say I want to get only the from this string. So we know that they are 0 base, so I'll just say 0 1 2 3 4 5. So it's starting from 6, so I'll say 6, and then with colon I can specify what the ending point. So this is what 6 7 8 9 10. So I'll just put 10 here. So what this will do is what is going to what extract this portion, which is what from this string. And note that what always this method or this slicing is from the start, then colon, then the end minus what 1. So since this is what 10, it will be what it will end at the 9th index, not the 10th index. So let me just comment this one out, and then you can see that let me just comment this out quickly. So when I go ahead and then put this to a variable, I'll just say word slice like this and assign it to this. And when I go ahead and print this out, which is word slice, let's see, let me clear my terminal and run my file. You see that we get from. So always keep in mind that what the starting position and then the end position, but what -1. So this is the start index and then the end index -1. So we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th position is what? An empty string, so -1, which will give us this. So when I go ahead and then put this to 0, let's see what we'll get. So we cannot see an empty space, but there is an empty space printed beside it. So you should always put that in mind. Now, one thing I want us to also notice that what we can specify only the start position but not the end position. When I go ahead and say word slice, so I can assign it to this. We can reassign this variable, and then I say maybe you should start from index of 0. So this, without putting the end there, so this will slice from h to the end. So when I go ahead, clear my terminal and run my file, you see that we get what? Only h. Sorry, I didn't bring the colon here. If I don't bring the colon, then that is what? Similar to just indexing. So when I bring colon here, you see that we get the whole string back. Let's say I want to slice from to the end of the string. I can just put 6 here and run my file. So you see that we get from, then from Python to the end of the what? The string. So you can what? Slice. You can put only what? The starting position. The next thing I want us to look at is that we can put only what? The end index. So when I say slice word, and I'll assign it to word, and then I don't put a start position or start index, and then I put, let's say, 10 here. So this will start from 0 to what? The 10th -1 position. When I go ahead and run my file, you see that I get hello from. Also, we can get the exact copy of this string. So by doing this, I can say word slice, and then I'll just put what? A square bracket. Let me just write word first, then square bracket and put colon over here. So when I do this, what this will do is what? This, since I didn't specify the start and then the end index, it will give us the exact copy of this string. So when I go to my terminal and clear it and run my file, you see that we get what? Exact copy of the string. So this is one way we can what? Copy a string. So you should take note of this. Now, one thing we can also do is that we can specify what? A negative index. So when I write word slice underscore slice here, and then I write word, and then I put square bracket here, and I say maybe it should start from, let's say, the 3rd position, and then I put, let's say, -5 over here. Let's see what we'll get. I don't know what we'll get, so this is what we are getting. So you can what? Specify a negative end position, and you can even specify a negative what? Start position. When I change this to -3, we don't get anything. Let me just change this to, let's say, I'll remove this one and then specify -3. So we get what? It will start from the end of the string, so which is what? N, O, and then what? H. Then it will take that portion of the string. So we can specify what? A negative what? Index as well. And moreover, whenever you are indexing, so let's say I say word index, we can use negative index. So I can go ahead and put what? A negative index. So let's say when I put negative index here, we'll get what? The index of what? A string. So you should put that in mind. So that's why when we are slicing, we can use what? A negative what? Index to what? Get a portion of the string. So now that is that aspect of it. The next thing we can also do is what? We can specify an optional third what? This thing integer in the bracket. So when I go ahead and I say word slice, and then I put a third, so I'll just say word, then I'll say we should slice from the 2nd, and then maybe end at, let's say, the 10th. Then when I put a colon, and then I can put what? A third integer there. And then what this will do is that what? This third integer is like the step. Okay, so when I put a step of 2 here, and I go to my terminal and clear it and run it, you see that we get this result. So what this will do is that it will start from 2. So in our string, the index is what? So 0, 1, 2, which is what? L. The first L here is, as you can see, and then it will move what? 2 times. So it will move twice. So it will jump the 2nd L here and and then access what O, and then to move twice again, and then in that order. So when I change this to, let's say, 3 like this, let's see what we'll get. We just get what? L space O. So that's how. So this third argument, or this third integer we are specifying, talks about what? The position we want to what? We want to move, or the number of steps you want to move in the iteration. And then mind you, this is the second position, or index over here is always what? -1. So you have to keep that in mind. When I change this to, let's say, I'll keep this at 2, and then I'll just put, let's say, I'll just put, let's say, 15 here, and I run my file. You see the value that we are getting. Now, one thing we can also do is, with this third argument, we can reverse a string. So I can just say word slice, and I'll assign it to word like this, and then I'll not specify the start, I'll not specify the end, but I'll put -1 here. So by so doing, I am what? Reversing. Okay, so when I go ahead, clear my file, and then my terminal, and then run my file, you see that the string has been reversed. So you see that we are getting the reverse of Python here, and then from, and then hello over here. So this is one way we can what? Reverse a string. When we don't provide anything in the square bracket, we can copy the exact string, and then when we don't provide the start, the end, and then we provide -1, we can what? Reverse the string. When I change this to -2, it will be a reverse, by it will jump, or it will give what? 2 steps. Okay, so it will start from the end, and then be jumping what? Twice. So this is what? -1, then -2, and then in that order, but in a reverse order. So you should put that in mind. When I change this to what? Positive, let's see what we'll get. When I run this in my file, you see what you are getting. So this one, I didn't specify the start, I didn't specify the end. So it will start from what? The beginning of the string. So it will start from H, and then jump twice. So it will jump the H, the E, and come to the L. It will jump this second L, and come to the O. It will jump the space, come to the F, in that order. So we can reverse a string by just writing this, or just put -1 again like this, and then the string will be what? Reversed. So that's it about what? Slicing of a string. I know there is a lot to take in here, but when you take your time, I hope you understand this properly. The next thing I want us to talk about is string concatenation and repetition. So we know that with the addition sign, we can use it to what? Add a string. So we can put 2 strings together using the addition sign. So when I say I can declare a variable, let's say first name here like this, and then assign it to what? John, and then maybe last name like this, and I'll assign it to, let's say, Doe like this, and save. So by so doing, I can, let's say, put these 2 names together to a variable, let's say full name, assign it to a variable like this. So I'll just say first name, then plus what? Last name. So by so doing, this is what we call what? String concatenation. So I can go ahead and say print a full name like this. Let me write that properly. Full name like this. When I go to my terminal and clear it and run it, you see that we get what? John Doe printed together. So in order to get a space between them, I can concatenate an empty string here. So I'll just put an empty string here, or a space there rather. So I'll just put a space between them like this. And when I run my file, you see that now there's a space between the names. So this is what we call what? String concatenation. And then let's say this string, I want to repeat it some number of times. I can say, I can go ahead and say print using the multiplication sign. So I can say print first name, and then times, let's say 2 like this. So when I go ahead and run my file, you see that what? The first name is printed twice, which is what? John. So I can go ahead and then maybe times 5 like this. When I go ahead and do this, you see that we are getting John repeated 5 times. So we can do these things with what? Strings as well. So I can come down here, not this. I can come down here and say print, and then maybe this string, which is star like this, and then I'll just put times what? 10 over here. And when I go and run my file, you see that the stars are being printed 10 times. Or when I change this to, let's say, um minus minus here like this. When I run my file, you can see the result. So that's it on string concatenation and then what? Repetition, whereby we can put two strings together using the addition sign, or we can repeat a string some number of times using the multiplication sign. Now, the next thing I want to us to look at is writing string with what? Triple and then triple quotes and then single quote. So as we learned earlier, we can create string using what? Triple quotes and then what? Triple double quotes and then triple single quote. So let's say when I have a long word, so I'll just put here long string variable like this, and then I'll just copy some strings over quickly to get some long string. Now when I put this, you see that this string is too long. Okay, you can see this warning from my text editor, which is coming from my rough extension, telling me that this string is too long. So let's look at some suggesting. So when I try what to fix this, so the best thing to do is whenever you are using single quotes and then double quotes for a very long string, you should change them to triple single quote or triple double quote. So when I change this to uh, triple double quotes like this and I save, you see that I don't get that error again or that warning again. So this warning is supposed to go away. I don't know why it is still here, but in most cases you are not supposed to have this error again or this warning again. So whenever you have a very long string, this is the best use case to put it in what? Single triple quotes or triple double quotes. So you should put that in mind. Now one thing you have to note is that whenever you are declaring a string, so for instance our string here, let's say I want to say hello from Python's community. So since it is what? Enclosed with what? Double quotes, I can put a single quote here. So I'll say hello from Python's community like this and save. We don't have any error with that, but when I try putting double quotes here, you see that we are getting what? An error, or Python is saying that, oh, you have ended this string here, so it's not aware of whatever you are putting over here. So we are getting a syntax error. So likewise, when you delimit your string with what? A single quote, you should make sure that single quote is no more part of what? The string. But when I go ahead and then change this to triple single quote or triple double quotes, I can work with that one too as well. So you should keep in mind that what? When a single quote is part of your string, make sure you delimit it with what? Double quote. And then when a double quote is part of your string, make sure you delimit that string with what? A single quote. You should put that in mind. Now, I want us to move ahead and look at string methods. Now, the string type or the string object supports many methods that can be dot prefix to the name of the string. We have seen that string or str object is an immutable type, so it does not provide any method that change the original string object. So when we talk about a method is just like a function. I know we haven't spoken about a function yet, but a method is just a function that is part of what? An object. So whenever we declare a function part of an object, then that function becomes what? A method of that object. Now, Python has some method that we can access on the string data type. So those are what we'll look at in this aspect of the video. So I'll go ahead and then comment all these things out. So I'll just go ahead and select all this and comment it out so that it doesn't distract us. And then I'll come to the top of the file here so that our comments will be down there. So what I want us, let me just send this up. So what I want us to look at is some string methods. So before we talk about some of them, when I go ahead and say print, and then I'll use the DRL function, and then I'll pass the str here to it, or the str object here. When I go ahead and run this, let's see what we get. So this will give us a list of all the methods or all the attributes that we can access on the string object. You can see in my terminal here that there is a lot of them. Okay, from this underscore underscore add underscore underscore, you don't have to think about this now. We'll talk about all this in later videos. But when you come down to the bottom side over here, you can see capitalize, case fold, center, count, encode, a lot of our string methods that we can access. So we'll just look at some of them quickly. So let's go back to our text editor quickly. So I'll just come here. I'll comment this out. So in case you are working with an object and then you don't know the methods or the attributes you can use to work with it, you can use this DRL function provided by Python and then pass the object to it, and then it will give you a list of attributes that you can access on that object. So the first method we want to look at is the upper method, which converts all characters to uppercase. So let me just say, I'll just declare variable called string underscore method here. Then I'll assign it to word. Then with the dot operator, we can access what a method. So you see from my text editor, when I wrote the dot, you can see all the methods and then or all the methods or attributes I can access on this string. So a lot of them are here, but we'll just look at a few. Okay, so the first one we'll look at is the upper, which changes a string to what? Uppercase. When I go ahead and say print string method, when I run my Python file, you see that we get all our strings now in what? Uppercase. So that is it with the upper method. The next method we'll look at is what? The lowercase, and then you know that it is obvious. It will change our string to what? Lowercase. So since this one is already changing it to uppercase, when I go ahead and then we declare this string and do dot what? Lower, like this. So let me see my string. We have some uppercase here. So we have uppercase H, uppercase P. Let me just change this to uppercase C as well. So when I go ahead and then run my file, we get all of them in what? Lowercase. So that's it with the lower method. The next method I want us to look at is the capitalize method, which capitalizes the first character. So in case I just change this to small h like this, and then I go ahead and then write string method like this, and then I'll say method dot what? Capitalize. And then make sure you bring parentheses at the end because it's a method. So you have to what? Bring parentheses here to call it. When I remove the parentheses like this, when I go to my terminal and run my file, you see that we are just getting built-in method capitalize of string object. So you have to what? Bring parentheses to what? Execute it. So in later video, when we talk about methods and then functions, you'll get to understand this more. So when I go to my terminal again and then run my file, so we get what? The H now capitalized. So as you can see from here, the H is now what? Capitalized. And then other things are now make what? Small letter, because this capitalizes the first what? Character. So you see that only since I've made this H here small h, it has made it capital H, and then the capital P is now small p, and then the capital C is now what? Small c. So that's it about the capitalized method. The next method I want us to look at is the swap case method, which swaps cases of all the strings. So I'll just say string method equals word and then dot what? Swap case. And then when I go to my terminal and clear it and run my file, you see that all the cases have been what? Swapped in the string. So that's it about the swap case, which swaps what? The cases. So that's it on some of the string methods that you can work with. So like you've seen earlier, there are a lot of string methods out there. So when I go ahead and then I say string method and I assign it to word and I use the dot operator, let me just close this terminal and I use the dot operator, you can see we have join, replace, center, left, adjust, encode, and so on and so forth. So that's it on the string method. Let's look at the find or maybe the join method. So let's talk about how we can join a string on some we can join a string using the join method. So I'll just say string method and then I'll assign it to, let's say I want to join the string or let's say on this slash, then with the dot join, let me write that properly. I'll just pass the word to it like this. Now go to my terminal and clear it. And then run my file. So you see that now our string is being joined on what? This what? Slash over here. When I change this slash to, let's say, a star like this, and run my file, you see that the star is being used to what join the string. Because this join method, we have to pass what we call an iteratable to it. So we'll look at what iteratable are later in a later video. So iteratables like a list or a tuple can be passed to what this join method. So since a string is what a sequence of characters, it is what an iteratable. So we can loop through this string method and then return individual methods. So that's it on the join method. Another method I want us to look at again is the find method. So there are a lot of string method as we said earlier. So I'll just close my terminal quickly. There are a lot of methods that we can work with. So I can say find, word, then dot find, and then maybe I want to find let's say hello. Let me say hello from this and run my file. We get to a -1. The reason why we are getting -1 is that the find method returns the index of the first occurrence of what the word or the argument you pass to it. So when it doesn't find any matching word or any matching arguments you've provided to it in the string, then it will return what -1. So since there is no what capital H hello, but there is a small h hello, when I change this to small h hello and run my file again, you see that we are getting what 0, the index of what 0. So that's the index of what this hello. In case I put another hello again like this, it will just return the index of what the first occurrence. So we see that it's returning the index of this hello because it can find it what at the first index. Let's say I put some gibberish here before the hello. Let's see what index it will return. It will return an index of what 6. That's the how we can use the find method. So like we said earlier, there are a lot of our string methods that we can work with in Python. So it's up to you to be able to what determine the method you want and then how you can use it. In case you're having issue, let me just remove this. You are having issue with the method to use or you don't know what method to use, you can just go ahead and then you can just use the DRL function and then you pass what a string object, and then this will give you what a list of the methods and the attributes that you can use to work on a string object. So that is it. Or better still, I can pass the word here because it's what a string object, and you see that it gives us what the same result. Another string method I want us to look at is the title. So I can say string method equals word dot what title, and then when I go ahead and then run my code, okay, I just commented it out, so let me just comment it in and then clear my file and run it again. You see that we are getting hello, hello. We are getting our string. What am I getting? Okay, I just play. So the ones that it will what this title method does is it will return what it will turn each word, okay, the first character of each word into what a capital letter. So that's what you are seeing here. So let me just go ahead and then remove this hello here. Doesn't make sense to put it there and run my file again. We don't see any difference. So that's the title method. Now finally, before I end this video, I want us to look at string formatting. So I'll just comment this out. So string formatting also allows us to interpolate values of variables into string, which means that we can insert values inside string using different formats. So we have two ways of string formatting. So using the format method and then using what we call what the f string. So let's go ahead and then look at this. So I'll just go ahead and then comment this out. So what I'll do is I'll declare some variables quickly. I think I can now comment this one out and then come to the top. I want the comments to be at the bottom. So I'll just declare a variable called username and I'll assign it to what team, and then I'll say message. I'll assign it to, let's say, hello, and then save. Now we can use format method to do what we call what string interpolation, so that we can get what the value from this string printed in another string. So I can assign a variable, let's say full message variable like this, and I'll assign it to a string. So what we'll do is we'll put curly brackets here. I'll put another curly bracket here, and then I'll say I'll just put it's nice meeting you. Then what after the string, I'll put my dot here and then I'll write format. Then over here I'll pass in my variables. So I'll first of all pass in the message variable, and then I'll use comma and then pass in the username variable. When I go ahead and say print full message and clear my terminal and run my file, you see that we get hello team, it is nice meeting you. So this is what we call what string interpolation. When I go ahead and then say something like, let's say age, and then assign it to, let's say 30 over here, then maybe I can change this full message, like let's say my name is hello. I'll just say hello, and then I'll just put this here. My name is, and I'll put this here, and I am dash then years old. Let me just write this properly. Years old. So what I'll do, let me just comment this one out, even though it will overwrite it. But what I'll do is, so the first bracket here is serving as what, a placeholder for our variables. So I'll just put the message here, then the username, then the third placeholder is for what, our age. So I'll just go ahead and then put age variable here. And when I go ahead and then run my file, we get what, hello, my name is Tim and I am 30 years old. So this is what we call what, string interpolation or string formatting. So that's when we pass in placeholders to serve as which are curly bracket, to serve as placeholders for our string. The next placeholder or string formatting method we'll look at is called what, the f string. So the f string literal, we can embed Python expression inside what, this string literal using curly brackets. So let's look at that first. So I'll just go ahead and then comment this down, and then using the same variables over here. So I'll just come down here and then say full name, or sorry, full message. Then I'll just use F. So I'll write F, and then in what, quotes, which can be single quotes or double quotes, you put what, your string interpolation here. So I'll just say, so I'll use a curly bracket and I'll put message here. Then I'll say command, my name, let me write that properly, is, then I'll just put a curly bracket and then I'll pass in how do you call it, the variable name, which is username, and then I then the age, then I'll put years old here and save. So this is what we call what, an f string. And then when I go ahead and then clear my terminal and run my file, we get the same result. Now one benefit of this f string is that we can put what, Python expressions here. Okay, I can go ahead and then I can put something like, let's say let me just, in this curly bracket, I'll just put curly bracket here, and then I'll just put something like maybe 20 times what, 20 here. So this is what, an expression. When I go ahead, I get it. You see that we get what, 400. So you can see that we can put what, an expression here, which will return what, a value. So that's the use of this f string. So in most cases, you see people using what, this f string syntax as compared to the format string method. So that's it on string formatting. So using the f string literal, you can embed Python expressions inside a string literal using curly braces. They are called f strings because you get a formatted string literal by prefixing a string with the letter f. So when you have a string literal prefixed with f, any variable inside curly braces is substituted with its value. So that is it with what, the f string. So with that said, that's all for this video. I hope this video helps you and then you have understood, you have gotten a deeper understanding of how to work with string in Python. That's all for this video. Please subscribe, like for more videos and contents like this. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.